I mean, first of all, I'd like to thank Jennifer and Alexandre from the Institut Français for helping us to put this together, along with Stella in the Arts House, very kindly accommodating us. I'd also like to thank Chen Yanyin from Gallery Press for putting up this event. Tonight we decided to, we'll try something that we think, at least we hope, hasn't quite been done for a long time, which is to, instead of talking about poems and talking about poetry, we'll let the poems talk with each other. So, before introducing the poets here, we'll start with a brief conversation of poems between Ching again and Adam. After which we will move on to Philippe's poems, and then we'll end up with Ching and Adam conversing again. I would sort of be the, what do you call that? Live host, sitting here looking pretty. But feel free to think poetically. But just to introduce our poets tonight, to my left is Philippe, and Philippe is a poet, a writer, and a philosopher. He's currently a professor of poetry at the European Graduate School he's professor of poetry at the European Graduate School and of philosophy at the University of Nantes. And he's interested in the nature of the poetic experience. And for Philippe, the poetic today lies not only between scientific experience and common sense experience, but allows for their communicability. And his works traverse poetry, poetology, prose, and philosophy. He has so far published 16 books of poetry and was awarded the Grand Prix de Poésies from the French Academy in 2015 in recognition of his poetic work. Adam is the author of 2 complete volumes of poetry, Phil Arcade and Poetry Vocabulary, and an individually published poem, It was recently adopted to contemporary classical music composition through the Gardeners in the Netherlands. And Ching teaches literature and interdisciplinary subjects at SIU, University of Social Sciences. They changed the name every 5 minutes, so one of them, in Singapore. He is the author of the works of Thomas Francis Thomas, The Universality of Poetry, and has edited Peter van der Kamp's 2010 collection of poetry, Scratch and Sniff. Ching's poems have been published in One Imperative, as well as been collected alongside Jared Winsong's works, To Be Do We Cry, Poor Banished Children, and Zamoga Bhagya. Ching is the founding editor of the Singapore Review of Books. And so now I should leave it to the good gentlemen to give it.
The element of solar decline. The tree is not time. If we speak by stopping science, we moisten the bark's grammar. Then we see a face is a turning page and a change in the page. That the face changes and the page turns. Or when seeing falls from thought to the line and draws a flare. Or the bird lifting of the bird branch from the solar fall plays the tutu. But the bird does not float ball, only oily halo greases the sky. Because the tree orders the soil, and the soil orders the tree, and the water orders the tree that orders the water that weaves the soil. These falling flares from the earth that suns. So here we sit with shrubby thoughts, blinking fruits and flamed blossoms. Because solar wind rubbed branches together and mocked the stars. We love the sun, because our thinking is the waves of the heaping seas. But will we become summer swollen, never turning? There on a paved street, looking around in the belly of some egg world, and seeing in-flight birds lay milky webs, who land and cough their beaks and speak of dinosaurs. So the pond weaves its mirth and inflames thought. So the pond perfumes the floated face in its page. So clouds speed to the edge of the pond's page, and sun-undoing dreams pound solar wash upon him, and the face goes black in the pool. The bird eats the spider caught in its beak. The bird wraps the spider and sees the shitty web. The tree weaves it. The birds flung from bowing branches lifted and sung. The microbes weep without care, because they write the sun's desire. So the soil records of spring small rains, typing green baby fingers that linger up, and Pompeii sighs through her feet. The tree is the spiral fine line, the hairs of an atlas, the trapeze of winter, a hair scribbled. So the tree reminds of the propeller of summer, eternal expiration. The spring aspires, crashed with death. The fall expires, the floating reply that winter inspires. Like the bobbing branch gently stilled by the slap sound of ice. The bird flight rose through blue by winging, the straight line black slice does not cut the noon sun that swallows silhouette.
Cow, waiting and waiting on the narrowing perch, the center holds them still. A trunk, a branch of streets and lanes, of skinny legs and weathered shoulders. Desire will not feed the hungry. The calm day light belies the ruffled nights. The night masks the day of fight, of fright, and frenzied feeding against stained walls. No one knew when the armed men arrived. All heard the sprays of delight. Some muffled glee and much flight. Lead and leather reached the heights. The sprays of resolution, the sprays of anger and hatred and petty delight. The descent followed shortly after, everyone little dead. Desire will not teach the ignorant, who will teach the young of flight and fight. In the evening, more return to wait and wait on the trembling perch.
The coil heart of the black log. The mist at 3:45 a.m. wafts across the playing field, truncated by rectangular buildings. This imbibes the terror of thousands. The spring's death, sponge under feet, seeps from trails and trails of passing sprung. This misted coil, the throwing sight to death's purple-orange blanket, now rests the view seat in the window of a building. Vestibules lit by an old social cartoon. I wake from breath. Does the tongue wave? Or is the tongue the waving hand of written symbols, speaking of tongues? The tongs turn the heaping orange glowed logs. The poet throws from the annulment. The ground is filled with supple eyes, oared wormholes, bulbous mounds of blackish, wet earth. But the cartoon is dying in the dead tone of the gone spring. It washes out from the ringing in my ears. The coil and the ink pen, the coil, the quill, the glowing orange coil of the black log. The hearth, burning wood, burning memory, burning shadows, the brilliance of remembrance of us in painted walls, secret etch of shadows that jumped up and down. The shadow is the extension of the earth, imagining body by fire. The paint holds shadows tight to the wall, the pain of the cartoon's atmosphere. I lit a fire, harness nature, which is itself. It means to gather around the fire, the burning heart, earth, heat. The fire gathers and burns out, takes in and burns out. The fire gathers us. It means it uses us and is used to be. The poem is not the gathered lines of logs. kindling, kinder. The poet among the fired shadows glimmers from holes none sees but gives a view of the death round. The crack of the coal, foam cells whistle, the crinkling mechanism of the words that spring faint flares of sun murmur. The shadow, spire, spring aspirates the sea. This is the black truth, the black etch of the type word or ordinance, the preparation of ordinary. Ordained coronal mass of the at-once-birth all, one line of sun, the crushing cushion of night, the divine prism, the stars from which forms the black truth. We see through poems bashed on night, starlight.
And I breath. The designations of anatomy sit perfected harmony, head, neck, chest, hand, and six, genuflecting the truth. The tonic of the heart, beat mellow and mute, at length in intervals and differences resolve. Resonant and reverberant, there being much to be left unsung, but for the echoes and love and faith. Humanity's footsteps. Arise, take the dyer's hand, it leads the way away. Dance the night dance, scars will fade away with the Nijinsky drill. Speak his fluidity, grace of this humanity's footsteps. Arise, soar. The pieces go together in this, our dance. Palimpsest. Where goes the self-same face looking out the canvas? I'll count the promises of princely preambles. In tears, nothing needs hiding, the self-same nameless of one life imposed upon another, and a third end, consumed by the longing of the already now Neptune sea shadow of cold doubt, how to fight the light. It is both more and less. It is either both or and. Not as if hopes only dwell in half light, not as if dreams belong only to the night.
Before starting my reading, I would like to thank all the friends and benches. So they know that they are friends. 4. Écrivain. Quel est son comportement? Est-ce qu'il faut qu'il reflète parfaitement le ciel, les nuages et les branches sur l'eau et les volets des tourneaux? Sous le vent, des feuilles s'argentent en foule, d'un peu loin, comme au pas, girouette dans l'arbre. Feuilles toutes, à distance, peupliers blancs battus ou poussés par le vent, à l'air du cerisier dans le printemps. Les feuilles sont retournées comme des crêpes blanches, blanchies ou à duvet argenté, ensoleillant l'envers devenu endroit. Un F de l'arbre blanc, herculéen, est un gant. On dirait dans la lumière, peuplier ganté comme papier tenture. L'ensemble des gants est enlevé, retourné en cerisier, selon l'œil. Les branches du peuplier blanc tombent les premières dans le vent. Ma mère loi est plombée, l'écrivain découpe à livre ouvert et il ne copie pas la culture, fidélisée, il travaille comme elle est trouvée, elle se trouve. Les deux costumes de l'écrivain pour la ville ou les visites et pour le bureau font deux. La position assise est modeste ou peu réjouissante, le corps étant en blouse plutôt avoué, pour une joie de serrer de l'essentiel. Même l'écrivain épique de maintenant, le rêver, le souhaiter justement, travaille à travailler comme la culture qui violonne les dispositions de l'époque et ne rejoint pas l'utile intuition de la majorité des gens de la campagne qui connaissent les arbres et non le volume des paysages sous les yeux, qui savent ce qui est semé ici ou là sur la route, le temps qu'il va faire, au chapeau de Sainte-Victoire, ignorent la montagne coiffée de bleu ou de gris, et ne souhaitent pas souvent rencontrer la beauté bleutée d'un mouron que par faiblesse. Ils refusent une petite heure pâle et fixe. L'écrivain écrit et pour cela il faut de la chasteté, agréable ou violente. En démoralisant, comment oublier la pierre dure, fidèlement présentée aussi dans l'expression cœur de pierre. Une pure ébullition de conversation le fragmente mal. Une mer de saphir, mieux. Il se rapporte à la poétologie comme le buvard à l'encre. Il en est imbibé. Or, le buvard et le convalescent absorbant déboussolé font deux. Le buvard prend localement, sans tout absorber. Reste alors ce que dit l'encre, délivrée de son excès. Elle qui est précieuse, mais qui diffère de la mer.
Number 4, writer, translated by Nicola. What is his performance? Must he perfectly reflect the sky, clouds and branches in water, and sparkling in flight? Beneath the wind, leaves become a silvery mass from a short distance, as if by step, weather vanes in the tree. Leaves all. At a distance, beaten white poplar, where pushed by wind looks like a cherry tree in spring. The leaves are folded like white feathers, whitened or with silver down, sunning the upside down made right side up. The L of the Herculean white tree is in love. In the light, it looks like poplar glove, as if with wallpaper. The groups of gloves is removed, turned back into a cherry tree, as the eye sees. The white poplar's branches fall first in the wind. Mother Goose's ruin. The writer cuts with an open book, and he doesn't copy loyalized culture. He works as it does. It is found, finds itself. The writer's two suits, for town or visits and for the office, make two. The seated position is modest or hardly gratifying, the body being the rather loweringly bloused, to the pleasure of tightening the necessary. Even today's epic writer, the dreamt and rightfully wished for, works at working like culture that plays the strings to the tone of times, and doesn't reach the useful intuition of the majority of country folk, who know trees, and not the extended landscapes beneath the eyes, who know what is sown here and there along the road, what the weather will be at St. Victory's Peak, disregard the mountain crown blue or grey, and often only wish to encounter the blue beauty of a scarlet pimpernel by failing. He refuses to have a humdrum set hour. The writer writes, and for that one needs chastity, pleasant or violent. In demoralizing, how to forget the hard stone accurately presented as well in the expression, heart of stone. A pure bubbling of conversation badly fragmentum. A sapphire sea that he relates to poetology like a blotter to ink. He soaks it in, while the blotter and the absorbing disoriented convalescent go together. The blotter takes locally without absorbing everything. What remains is what the ink says when free from its excess. That which is precious differs from the sea.
Anticritique. On a dit que la pensée est affaire dedans. Aucun livre parfait, libre, ne rend inutile conférences, détails et de textes lourds, car la perfection s'exprime avec le reste, vérité antique. Un livre est la nature mise en portée et la nature complétée s'il a du naturel de la force fondée. Mallarmé veut se tromper quand il dit, même si tactique dans une lettre vive au solliciteur, il abomine les préfaces de l'auteur et davantage, dit-il, les préfaces ajoutées par autrui. Il parle d'un vrai livre qu'on ne présente pas et dont il faut parler, qui vient du coup de foudre et sans l'aide d'un tiers, mari, tout seul. Subtilité anticritique d'un critique d'un grand, subtilité privée. Elle dit que les critiques modernes et poétiques appartiennent aussi aux tutelles de l'époque et succombent malgré eux ou de plein gré à ces éclairs attirants. Fontaine publique, lèvres scellées bien souvent et fusées anticritiques, fumée de silence bien souvent. Les relations brillent et bien pire encore. Quand les inspirés sont inspirés pour être sûrs que les mots leur viennent d'en haut ou d'en bas, être sûrs qu'ils soient d'ailleurs, alors ils deviennent des sociologues bohèmes à leur insu fréquemment. Leur fils me conduit maintenant à la sociologie, à la perspective cadastrale qui engage tout sauf un je ne sais quoi. Leur fils que sociologue de maintenant est un contrôleur, sinon un maître. Il est un descendeur dans l'idée, il a divers habits, jusqu'à l'habit qualifié de l'homme de culture. Posture il y a, mais la posture de l'ignorant est ou bien pose de savant pétrarque, ou bien pose de commandant qui commande sans le vouloir au titre du destin, bien forcé à diriger, bouche parlophone.
Anti-critical. They say that thought has teeth. No perfect book, Bible, renders useless conferences, textual details, magnifying glasses. For perfection speaks with the rest, ancient truth. A book is nature at hand and nature complete, if there is natural and founding force. Mallarmé wants to be mistaken when he says, even if tactical in a vivid letter to the solicitor, he abhors authors' prefaces, and even more, he says, prefaces add others. He speaks of a real book that one does not introduce, and of which one must speak, from love at first sight and without help from a third, husband, pusher, anti-critical subtlety of a critic, of great private subtlety. It says that modern and poetic critics also belong to the loud mouths of the period and succumb in spite of themselves or completely willing to its enticing flashes. Public fountain, lips often sealed in anti-critical flares, smoldering silence frequent, relationships restrained and worse. When the inspired are inspired, to be sure that words come to them from above or from below, to be sure that words are from elsewhere, then they become bohemian sociologists, often without knowing. Orphism now leads to sociology, to the cadastral perspective that engages everything except an elusive something. The Orphic sociologist of today is a controller or a master. He is a descender into the idea. He wears different suits, including the skilled suit of the cultured man. There is posture, but the posture of the ignorant is either the pose of the scholar, Petrarch, or the pose of the commander who commands without willing according to destiny, forced to direct, door-forming mouth.
47. Wallenstein. Il attend à l'instant précis où il peut agir, car il veut que tout arrive objectivement, naturellement, ou fatalement, sans qu'un moi l'ait voulu. Or, comme il veut ne pas faire, il veut encore, et il perd de bas en haut, à l'oblique. Le terrassement dans la montée est son lot unique. L'illimité est illimité. patience trop grande et trop élastique, changée en seau pauvre. À son tableau noir, il attend le bon moment et déclare que Saturne a dirigé l'univers. Jupiter commande désormais, donc il faut y aller, la nuit ou le jour, la nuit ou le sous-sol. Malheur étant un artisan, tout comme le mieux est que le bonheur façonne aussi. Saturne fait naître des idées dans le cœur, il est le sensitif, le senteur ou le goûteur premier, d'où tout sort. Wallenstein pense que la vie est jupitérienne et jupitérisée. Seul, il est sûr que les preuves de la solitude où il est sont fournies de sa main, malgré l'action lente et muette du temps qui écarte de l'homme seul adorer le contemporain. Gare au délai. La tour d'ivoire est tout à coup vermoulue, on n'y agit pas vite. Qui aime une tour? Elle ne fait rien, tombe, vécu. Elle joue avec l'enfer. Dire non au hasard, c'est refuser la distraction de l'oreille, l'attente à reculons, car le vent est sans oreille. Énorme poche de coton ou cotonnade, puis des tapis moutonneux ou des strates émivoilées.
Wallenstein. He awaits the precise instant in which he may act, for he wants things to happen objectively, naturally, or inevitably, without the willing self. But since he wants not to do, he still wants, and he loses from bottom to top to the incline. The landscape of the climb is his only prize. The unlimited is the delineator. Too great patience is too flexible. Change to a lean leaf. In front of the blackboard, he awaits the right moment and declares that Saturn has left the universe. Jupiter commands from now on. So one must go. Night one's day, night or the underground. And happiness being an outside, or as if it would be best if happiness also crafts. Saturn bears ideas in the heart. He's the sensitive one, the first to smell or taste, from where everything emerges. Wallenstein thinks that life is Jupiter and Jupiterized. Alone, he is sure that the proof of the solitude in which he dwells is produced by his hands. Despite the slow, silent action of time that separates the solitary man adored by contemporaries. Be wary of the days. The ivory tower is suddenly moth-eaten. It moves slowly. Who likes a tower? It does nothing, falls down, live. It plays with hell. To deny chance is to refuse the distraction of the year, rapid waiting. For the wind is yearless. Enormous sacks of cotton or cotton goods, then curly carpets of strata and veils.
I want to thank you, Nicolas Marie Martinez, for our translation. By the way, you mentioned it, and I want to thank her again. And now, okay.
Thumb against the glass, Bernard. The poem I want to have is a strap from a bag that carries the book. Because the poem fish hooks by lines to other pages split by my thumb, or unbounded pages spread on a table which show that poems have a good, pure heart, or that a typeface defibrillates. Ordering delicate flesh and shines poems for a hook to a page as a tone that shifts from a heart to an ear. We need be around like that, because the heart listens like an ear. Because the poem soon is deflected and impressed. So, wilts the face in shadowed lines, and the bright sun on the table, wipes pages into a page. True, the bright disappears in circulation like a muscle or a plant without sun, but the bright is the tone of the poem in typeface. Being an octave. It is as if we cannot escape you, and you are you because of the name, yet we don't need aim to be true. We only care about being when we are without it, when we forgive naturally by disintegrating, as in a day, as in a night, we do, with a sightless truth of view. Thinking is not the instrument any more than being where it's horn. The frown in the crown says the rock, says the cloud, says the listless folding, soft-toned sea buttered by evenless objects made of ball sun. Being is thin and wary. The impression of desire of the past and lives in letter's future and dissipates as fate. Or think in octaves. Or take a point and turn it sideways, and a line is a point. It delineates the thinking of a shape, the geometry of streets, as much as the car is as a point but no freedom. Watching plants die. Watching plants die is not easy, or as easy as watching a nation expire. The nation of plants, the vestigial, dreaming vegetables. The dream comes from the onlooker or the steamer on the stovetop. Steam affects a summer day, steam sweeping walk-like wind, the drivable caress. The indifference of the animal to the plant, the indifference of the plant to the soil, the grit, the roots, the soil of scattered animals, and the scree kept by alone. A track of force, the flag snaps in the wind, the flag reports ocean crack and slap, gives time to the earth and grows buildings. The nursing home, shoal of puree and tubes and blinking eyes. My quota. April 1st, 2017. I'd like to say this is for Philippe. When you speak of an object, you kill it with the words that fit. We had been living in a broken window, like a web. In the web, one cannot move. The whole window would collapse into 2 dimensions. Reality, says the realist, but works for this company called realism. He made poetry a province, and then called it real estate. They were killing undecided floaters like a kid with bubble wrap, who violently crushes these monads with the adult size of himself. He stuck his hand in the water and felt the grass. The hand popped out from the crack in the mountain's side and was quickly cut off by the adult size of the boys, says Grimm. The poem changed its name to Dermis and wrapped truth in the last sheet between nerves and intelligence, whose police word for realism colludes with realists selling real estate. Nerves are not straight lines because empiricism resists truth. So they are bent up in the body like a scouring pad. There are no nerves in rock, strata. However, a stone's old heat, to its seas of sensible nervousness, pummeling history. How many eyes follow between Germany and Poland, between orgasm and birth, when, like stupid planets, they suckled light like milk? One thing realists should know, FAQ for realism managers. In the womb, nothing is seen, amnion, thinking. Sight is repressive of this truth, and all the creatures of the sea speak to the fetus. How many tongues and heated bodies carve the historical columns of my OED? How many bodies and mouths suckled on the words passed to you? The puppy became a bird right before it hit the tree. The puppy bird walked like a chicken. The puppy bird romanticizes about the lizard stealth of a turkey's attack. The last one is from my daughter, Clover. It's her first poem. I hope I read it right. You cannot go to Chubbyland because you need to be a kid again. We need a responsible person. Thank you.
Song from the Cave, 9th August 2010. Now here is sense more suitable than how, when they came for the roses, the half-heard promises stood singing in the ancient caves. One morning rose the light carriers, one new spirit, one trust, exhorting, singing, of possibility that is infectious, of blind hope leaning, learning, rolling, certain the chances and choices. Success is a matter of taste, they sing. So too the silence of quiet determination. They still want their roses, are still collecting promises, of course. Now with fervor more suited to the one. Preparations. Shining bright, a whim of the waning day casts on waves, bathed in the shadow breaths of an ancient yearning, cast low our shadows stretched through the fingertips of dreams, dusk after distant dusk. Not having glanced beyond these clear lines, the searing only ever stand us on ceremony, with empty rituals emptying past the tips of keenness, moving lips in restless halls echoing the tips of keenness. Taking a stand against the flood of perilous envy, everywhere it exposes yawning need for a stamp of our quiescence, tip on tip, hip to hip, the meaningful blast of these unsung verses relocate the calculation of rest. A turn begins before fading back to the shadows of fulfillment, village after village. The muse defy the gathering circus. Who came? Who shines? Greeting with raised hairlines, kicking off the dust beneath old papers and date news. Surely breath must come to bully the outstretched body, limp to the touch of new dusk. Turning on the ash of forgotten scribbled sheets, the words gather lightly on the lips, as if turning and returning to the day of toil, watching the shadow grasping toward the wall's end, the words on the lips blasting adjacent melodies, lips searching for a near rhyme to carve aside the waning day for the night. Day breaks, the memory of marsh past buried beneath these layers of enhanced boot tabs. Surely the badge is a mark of primal logic. It pierces the truths we left behind when the stroll became the goose steps of a dreaded generation. The searing only ever stand us on ceremony with rituals emptying into parades of worshipful ghosts. The soil wheels to tired hills, as if returning to its days of buried memories. Enter the great swathes of turning attitudes, where the root notes of our instincts take a stand against envy, unlayering the stubborn pews of forward face. The carrier asks no questions, only holds up an end of the bargain. Keenness is a light that cannot be blinked away, just as the shifting sand of empty shillings give way to stagger and appetite. Day breaks and the grip on memory, on buried memory is sustained by the size of the generation wedded to the age-old wisdoms of age-old guardians. Night has come and gone again. From the whispering echoes to the keen ear, the throes of a new tribe peal through the morning walls, clear as white, bright as the shiniest model on display. Gone is the dependable clay base upon which nothing grows but craft. Onwards the march of tomorrow, gathering light on the whale's hull, peeling away the iron skin on which dreams slide. They left the storm too late, but half rhymes joined the march of days, half blown by the rousing sweep of feet and brass. Tomorrow's people did not fade. In fact, they turned and turned again to a time to come, to a promise pouring from the lips of the bargaining throng, line on line, hip to hip. The well-meaning people saw to the passing of the right. Today the yearning still beats on the heart. Today fading saffron flails in the wind, brightening the sun. On the station platform, outstretched bodies hand over parcels of wrapped warriors. On the station platform, prayer winds change hands.
Now, an unpublished one, translated by Maida. Really rightly stated, I think so. Tapis volant. D'où vient ce tissu qui habille le sol, où l'air, comme tapisserie, raconte la guerre? Tapis est un jardin où l'âme mouvementée voit Salomon danser avec la reine de Saba, la dame de midi près de l'eau douce et du soleil brûlé, du bras de Padoulou. Reine aux mille habits rouges, elle offre le tapis dansant. À l'équilibre, le peseur pesé, et voit le miroir du parquet rossignol. Les pas chantent dans le sol. Le tissé a sa trame et c'est un jardin traversant et soulevé aux portes de cornes d'ivoire. Jardin aéré et comme un cheval des vents qui retrouve la colombe. Scheherazade, aux mille et deux nuits, cherche un conte d'après le sabre et vole sur le jardin flotté, traverse des forêts de pierre où les haches se brisent. Elle sole par la porte des songes qui fait entrer en enfer. Les deux portes voisines disent deux lois. L'une de corne fait sortir des ombres réelles, les âmes pâles et sans matière qui visitent les réels et retournent au monde avec bonté. L'autre d'ivoire fait sortir des rêves trompeurs, des apparences qui tourmentent les vivants délaissés contre les réverbères. Au milieu des apparences, le conteur dansé peut revenir du sommeil d'en bas sans alerter les dormeurs qui vagabondent. Les songes qui vacillent donnent livrets de paroles ou des vérités envolées du jardin motivé. Qui est né le portier? L'amour est assez vrai.
Blind-hearted. Where does this fabric come from? The tissue that dresses the air and ground, and the tapestry that tells of war. The garden of the carpet where the soul moves. See Solomon dance with the Queen of Sheba, Lady of Noon, near soothing water, burning sun. The Queen, 1,000 red robes, odors, balance, ways where, and sees the mirror of a nightingale parquet. In the ground steps it. The woven has its weft, a traverse of shifting garden, with gates made of horn, ivory, aerial garden, a wind horse, fine fidelity. Scheherazade, of 1,002 nights, looks for a tale according to the sword, and on the floating garden flies, through woods of stone where axes break. Does she go out by the dream door that opens to hell? The two neighboring gates declare two laws. The one of horn lets real shadows out. Pale souls without matter visit the real and return to the world with kindness. The other of ivory, less deceiving dreams out, appearances who torment the living abandoned against lampposts in the midst of appearances. A dancing teller may rescind from deep's hunger without alerting sleepers who wander. Dreams sway in ryegrass, words, truths, repulse the garden, keeps the dream door. Love is a locksmith.
So as part of the conversation, we thought we'd slightly nothing clear to our heads. I think what we envisaged the hope was that the next part of it was to open up the conversation with all of you by way of questions, by way of comments, by way of whatever comes to you. But since I do my own right? So I mean, having known the three of you for quite a long time in differing capacities, but in capacities that sort of merge as teachers, as friends who teach, and teachers that have become friends. It's almost the line that jumped up at me was from Adam's poem. Not so much joke, chubby lads, the notion of beware the heart listens every year. Because the last couple of days I was reading a text which maybe connected me not being much it's from Evelyn Manguel, Libraries. And he has a line in there that says, the writer, or the one who writes, the poet, doesn't need to find a logic or a line throughout their work. That is the role of a reader, to make sense of something. So I was just wondering, because all the three of you write vastly different poems, right? How much is it of concern to you when you write how, at some level, how it's received, but maybe more importantly, how it's heard, or how it's, to lift off Adam's notion of heart together, how your poems are felt?
I talk too much, but everybody knows this. Increasingly so, I'm worried about that. I don't know if it's good or bad. When I started writing poems again, after a while, I really didn't care. For me, it was something that had to do with an experience and what was going on in my thoughts. But somewhere along the line, I think I wanted to transmit. And I think that has a lot to do with influence. Then reading poetry, especially modernist poetry, good modernist poetry, and maybe coming to terms with what's called pure poetry, which I think is an experience. I don't even know if that's a concept anymore. But maybe trying to convey something. Because you talk about a lot. I mean, in the poems, I'm concerned about a lot. I didn't do, but that one. But I think in the earlier poems, I was really interested in sound and rhythm, and maybe not so formal.
I think that at the heart of this really know what it might mean or what it might want things to be, but sounding is important. And for me, I also, and Jeremy knows this, I'm very reluctant to think of the stuff that I write as poems. Not so much poems, they are a series of insinuations, right? Ultimately, it's really how it sounds to you and how it sounds to people that you read it in their minds. And I think that matters more. Because if you want what you write to mean something, especially if it's in the realm of poetry, then if you want it to mean something and insist that it means something, then a lot will be lost about it. So we write by implication, rather than insinuation, really more than anything else. This is how I approach this.
I feel like speaking in French, but I will try to speak in English. To begin with, I think when we speak, we do not know everything of what we say. That's the basis. So even when we want to convey something or transmit, or even when we want to reduce as much as possible the part of the insinuations in what we write or say, it's not possible. So we've got two options there, at least two options. The first is to accept that and to nevertheless try to be as clear as possible. And the other option is to try to make the reader, and I include myself in this, under this category, to try to make the reader become again sensible, aware of the fact that he cannot understand everything of what he reads when he reads. And it implies, I guess, sort of behavior towards language in the process of writing, maybe also in the process of speaking. And this process may be, in a way, summed up in Mandelstam's sentence. You probably remember that Mandelstam said that in a line or a verse or in a poem, in a series of verses, lines, the stake is to have the reader wake up in the middle of each word. And this sentence, to me, is a funny one. I mean, it's funny because it implies that we all fall asleep between the words. And so if we have to wake up in the middle of each word, of course, we have the right to sleep in between. We have the right, but it's not a duty. So that's our predicament, our strange predicament, to sleep and wake up and just sleep. And to be asleep while we think we are fully awake. So, maybe poetry, I think poetry to me, in the process of writing poems, is shall I say, a means, it's not a means, it's a way to try to, yes, to wake up in the middle of the word I may use, but also to be, it's a way to be true to the predicament, the general predicament of everyone, which is, you know, sleepy one, and so on. And that's it. Because we of course, we all know that philosophy to begin with was a way to say to people, wake up. Heraclitus says so, constantly speaks of the sleeping people and so on. You all know that. But how shall we decide that everyone is sleeping? It's something we cannot be sure of. But the process of a reading, even a reading, and the process of reading a poem, for instance, is a very special one, a very critical one to me, for that ground. Because there, language may be again place, the place of our thoughts and feelings, of course. But this place is considered in another way. So it implies that in a way I refuse to make poems as if a poem could or should be a mere enslaved conversation, because all our conversations are conversations of slaves. It's too rude. I'm not that rude. But that's my answer.
I mean, sort of drifting a little bit from I mean, without meaning to be trying to lump three answers as if they're the same answer, which obviously they're not.
Rude, I didn't mean rude, I mean rough. That was a real word. Maybe I was rude. I meant rough, tough, too brutal, too violent. It's not a conclusion, right?
Sort of playing off Ching's, I just like radically accusing myself.
Sure, go on. Not for the first time,
notion of sound and sounding and insinuations, and because part of reading, especially we need the notion that to read is to open oneself to the possibility of the text, or the text and possibilities. There's also the possibility that whatever reading you draw from the text, that's called draw, is also one that may not be from the text, it's from you rather than the work itself. Particularly with poems which are not, which don't necessarily make them as arguments. So, the notion of implications in poems, you would also imply, you would also frame, it's your own framing, but in framing you can also frame as an accuse someone or something that they have something that sort of tangentially came to my head as I was listening to the three of your various responses was a question a long time ago where more than a decade ago when I asked Michel what he thought his risk, he ended up saying that poetry is not about bringing forth the completely visible or the completely invisible, but poetry is about bringing forth the slightly visible. So something that is there, but not usually paid attention to. So I think that came to mind because in some way all three of you, in different ways, were talking about attending to not just language, even though you're making language alive again, so language not in its enslaving, not in its mores, not in its customs, but also, I suspect, paying attention to the world around us, both in terms of an observation and in terms of an enlivening of the world around us. So I guess the question that, or I'm not sure if it's the question slash comment is, if there is a such thing, I'm not sure, if there is a such thing as a poetic attunement to the world, what would be your relationship with it? Even if Ching uses the word, what would be your relationship with that attunement, and how is there a particular state in which you write as opposed to if it's supposed to living?
I want to answer this.
Go on.
I'm very eager. Classically conceived poets are estranged from the world, right? Which means they have an obligation. According to those who say poets are estranged from the world. For me, I don't think this estrangement is tenable. And I think that poets have to deal with it and confront it. Otherwise, no more poetry and no more estrangement. Otherwise, you have a kind of manufactured estrangement, right? And that's the task of poets, to carry the estrangement while it's not estrangement.
Sorry, I just going to interrupt you.
Yeah.
Look, you guys do it to yourself. You put poetry in a room like this,
Yeah.
in a smaller setting. You read your poetry with harsh voices, right? With monotone kind of things. And you want us to find meaning and find some kind of connection. Dudes, look at this. Seriously, I find that answer hypocritical, right? Because you are telling me you have to carry this sense of estrangement, and I'm here listening to you in this kind of room, right? So, I mean, you talk about meanings or finding something, right? Shakespeare did it in a baldy kind of play or in a pub. But here I am in this enclosed room. You tell me this estrangement, you guys create it yourself. The microphones, the rooms,
spend a lot of time in bars.
Sorry, I'm calling you out, man.
No, it's fine. That's what I mean. Right? So it's an estrangement from the work itself to present it. And you have to sort of deal with this question of authenticity, which is an insecurity, which is a question of existence, but not a question of estrangement. Estrangement for me is carrying responsibility for what you've been dealt in terms of your thinking, in terms of your disposition. I actually find it quite wonderful that this is an old Parliament House and that poetry can be read. I find that very interesting as well. And I'm more interested in, not authenticating the site in terms of that, but who else has spoken? Maybe a Parliament House is a place to deal with estrangement, if it's free. Perhaps not. I mean, I think, I've been asked that question a lot, right? Oh, you're a poet, and it's like, you just get used to it. That's how it is, and I'm not ashamed of that. What I'm really concerned about is managing to read so many poems in a certain amount of minutes so that you can enjoy it like a happy meal. And then everyone's happy. No, I'm not concerned with that.
Yeah, I wonder what happened in here before.
Lively debates, fights, the picture smells that. And I'm sorry to say that in the poetry you have, the words that I hear look quite nice. I like that. But why is it that it's all one poem? Was there a need to read poetry in this whole hushed voice, this slow, monotone, rolling sea kind of thing? You know, I don't understand. I'm into poetry.
The same reason that you go to an art museum and you also speak in hushed tones.
Yeah.
So that you can hear the paintings better. There's a bit of that. No, but I think it's a very important point. Partly, I'll come back to what Jeremy raised earlier, so what Adam was saying. But I think part of why we are here and doing this in this manner is because there's no longer that space for this sort of engagement, right? You don't go to a pub now to decide poetry. You get chased out.
Not in this city, but most other cities, you used to get it.
You get your poetry night, maybe, but you can't just randomly walk into wherever, Temple Bar or wherever, do some of these things. You can't anymore, right? Why is it all monotonous? I guess because we are no longer the singers of poems. We no longer know how to perform the words. And I think that's crucial because the technology of thinking about words is no longer as a spoken medium, but it is now written. So a lot has been lost in that process. I think it's a crucial loss, but I don't think all is pessimistic at the end. But because the way that ideas are articulated exists in some form anyway. So there's a bit of that. And a lot I can acknowledge that a lot of things that are written here are meant to be read rather than to be read out in various groups. And to I think respond to what Adam was saying.
Just speaking about, I may say that the poetry is inclined to yield to two temptations: the temptation of music and the temptation of, let's say, prose, simple. And in what you call performance, of course, poetry is yielding or yields to the temptation of becoming music. So the supposedly monotonous tone and so on, it's not the case actually, to me is true to a very specific form, medieval one, which is called cantillation. And cantillation is just precisely in between prose and music. It's a singing way of speaking, but it's not music and it's not a well. So that's exactly what I try to make when I read. That's just a technical answer. But I'm definitely convinced that poetry should not be music. Although there is a very strong temptation to become one. If you read, for instance, Hegel's lessons on aesthetics, he constantly tried to understand how music comes back in poetry. But he says that poetry cannot be defined by sound. It's a way of seeing things. I know that many poets today violently refuse this Hegelian doctrine. But to me, this doctrine is sensible, although it's not a doctrine, poet's doctrine. It's quite clever. But he also says that music demands a text. So poor music needs to admit that poetry is there to complete it. So that's not bearable to only define music this way. So purely Hegelian. Sorry.
Well, I think in response to Adam, I'm not sure that the process is anchored around estrangement, but I think a very human sense of experience that includes a sense of alienation and estrangement and other things. But in the attempt to deal with that, we are drawing on all other mechanisms of connection, of trying to connect. That's when language speaks. For me, at least, that's how I think about words, whether it's reading or writing, whether it's writing something like approximating poetry or just day-to-day sort of communication, because you've got to deal with how you're making those connections anyway. And a lot of, I think, what Jeremy was trying to say earlier, that's how I interpret that, is that a lot of what we're dealing with when we're writing and speaking has to do with the side of language being the side of kind of tension between the source, you, the writer, or the speaker, and the audience. Right? And that connection can never be perfect, and it shouldn't be perfect, because otherwise it's just nonsense, I suppose. Right? And where does this tension exist? I feel perhaps that it's really in the space between words, more than just words themselves. And that space, I think, is crucial. We don't think about it, but really it's the conjugation of words and meanings that therefore make the larger narrative, whatever intention. Can always write in a state of drunkenness. There's a state of right?
In the spirit of Kenny's intervention, open it.
I probably don't need one if I speak up. I think it's really a lucky opportunity for someone like me to come listen to people read verbs. It doesn't happen that often. Last time I took such an opportunity. I was one of 3 people in the audience in a large bookshop listening to a great poet read great poets. So I think there's something quite luxurious about this situation, and quite interesting. But I did have a specific question that I really wanted to pose so I get 3 different answers. And it really concerns who you're addressing when you read poetry. And the answer is obviously not as simple as saying you address the people in this room, because you're reading work that was written previously, that already in some sense has an address. Whether you read it or not, or whether you like it or not, or whether you acknowledge it or not, is addressed. You address, and then you address again, and then you read. And so the question is really quite simple. It's who is the addressee of poems that you read?
May I answer? When in the plane, before landing in Singapore, I couldn't sleep, so I tried to watch movies, and I tried to watch a movie about the Beatles. And I was glad to hear Paul McCartney answer to that question. And he said, if we knew address our songs, we would be managers. So I was very pleased to hear this answer. That's rude, I know. But I was pleased so more seriously, I would say that even though you are convinced you know to whom you address your own, I guess you're right in order, sure. You cannot ask this question without writing poems yourself. So, it is a violent question. Even though you're convinced you know to whom you address your own poems, you do not know. Right? That's my answer.
I think it's the brilliance of methodology. Because the method of how a poem orients itself towards something happens before and after it appears on page. I mean, but so does life. And so in this sense, poetry is a fantastic compass that doesn't have the right magnet. And what makes us, I suppose, a question as a human is we figure out that force. And if I dedicate it, it's because that problematic methodology is there. I just don't know. That's I think for me, in terms of estrangement, that's the way I deal with estrangement. I don't. Why am I thinking of Schopenhauer? I don't know. But it's will and determination. Right? This basic idea that the will just shows up, right? And then you spend your life trying to determine your audience. I try to determine this or that. Right? It doesn't work that way. Something makes you blush. Can you determine that? Freud will say, oh, well, you have this and that. Right? Someone will figure it out for you, but it's never the case. And psychology and psychiatry is a great industry. I don't know.
Even when you dedicate a poem to someone, this someone is not someone you entirely know. You do not know who the person you want to dedicate your poem to is.
Do you ever consider?
Do you know?
Do you ever consider perhaps you will be forming your poesy, writing this in that way?
You write poems. You write poems.
No, I have done.
So, when you dedicate poems, you should. You have the right to. Do you know the people you dedicate your poems? It's not a question.
Absolutely not. No, you cannot know to whom you address. But that doesn't necessarily mean you can't answer the question of who you address when you write poems. So, it sounds that by saying you don't know who you address, you actually have no idea about what the address should be, what form it should take.
You have ideas of what the predicament of the contemporary people actually is, notions of the general.
Settle for a general understanding. In a company like this, it's perhaps easier than it is in other situations. For some people, less so for others. And we certainly cannot know for certain the limit of that address in terms of numbers. But it's a question that still remains to be answered in terms of how you form your converse relation.
Yeah. So it's the question of question is, should we write as clearly as possible in order to join people? Or is the question another one? How could we be successful in helping people answer the hard questions they have to face every day? Because it's a critical question, of course. But we are here. We are bound to come back to the first question. The contemporary people, human beings in general, cannot answer the questions, the hard and persistent questions, cannot answer them, but in language. So language is the place where freedom begins. And so a poem cannot escape the language question. Although I understand what Aidan means by the formal trend, formalistic trend, the risk. We should be aware of. Because, of course, we are constantly on the brink of shaping nice, small objects likely to insinuate things and to make people ask, well, what's that, or what's happening there, and so on. So it may be artificial. It's always possible. But when someone like Jacques Prévert, for instance, when he wrote, that's a question when I read Jacques Prévert, for instance, was he sure he would be successful, and why was he successful in being read by many people? But actually, the answer is very specific. He was read because he was not only a poet, he was a songwriter, he was and so on. It was just a matter of advertising. It was not because his language was very simple. It was because his simple language was unfolded, diffused everywhere, and he was very clever. He was not only a poet. That was very shrewd, actually. I know it's true. I don't think we are much. But success is the point. Because that's why I mentioned the Beatles, right? The question was, why are you successful? Why is there a connection between you and the vast audience? How can it be possible? Which means that you make very stupid songs, and so on. So how can it be successful? The answer is in the music itself, the phrasing, in something dance, I guess, the French and dance and so on. So something formal, actually. Otherwise, je vous déteste. He pulls the glass strictly.
I'm actually going to riff off John's question on addressing and Adam's notion of stranger and Kenny's question of place, right? Place and appropriateness. I'm going to accuse you of appropriateness for once in your life. Because the question of the estrangement and the stranger is also the question of the addressing, or not necessarily who or how, but maybe how. How do you approach someone who's at the border? Even if this person at the border is someone who is potentially unknown. So in Kenny's version, what if I pick a particular place over another place? And how do you, and how much you do it? Because I think the question that intrigues me in all of your work is you're sending it up in some way. Sending it up maybe in ways as Ching might say, that might sound out some people, but you may not necessarily know who you're sounding out. But in sending it out, you also are inviting somebody to try to respond to your work. So there's a certain hospitality, at least I detect the hospitality in all of your work. Right? Because none of your poems try to lock someone or efface people in the address. So I guess it's a question anymore.
You should stop drinking your
I can answer this question. I think in this, when you're writing a poem, or if you're writing a term paper for all of it, you'll have this moment where things are already understood. Hospitality is not hospitable in the sense of what happens and what takes place. Now, I've woken up many times at night thinking, why in the hell did I write that? Why in the hell did I say that? But that's another reading. And I don't know what that means. I can't sit around and get completely OCD about it. I can't trace it down. I can't track it down, or I'll disappear. All I know is that that's an estrangement, at least for my 8 hours of sleep. All I know is that that's something that I could or could not respond to. And I also know that's bad. And I have to try through craft, through a practical approach, to deal with that. And it works. In terms of accessibility, if I write 4 lines, 4 lines, 4 lines, and I get dramatic, and I use my voice, maybe because I don't want to do that. Maybe because I'm responding to other poems, or responding to something else. You can read it, you can hear it, it sounds beautiful, and go buy a greeting card. But that's also a defense issue. Because a poem will carry a certain part of language that's silent. For me. And I'm fine with that. I don't like it sometimes, but I'm kind of like 40 years old, so I get used to it. You get used to it. And it's yeah. Okay.
I think that whether you have an intended addressee or imagined addressee, the reality would be that when you're writing some paper or otherwise, you're writing the true addressee is yourself. You're writing to yourself, to yourself. You're consolidating your own thoughts, your own experiences, your own responses. And anyone else who picks up your writing and responds to it, they insinuate themselves into that relationship, but ultimately what you're doing and trying to articulate really is a way for you to think on, to think some more. At least that's how I approach it. And I don't mean it also in some kind of indulgent or narcissistic way that you're writing to yourself, and all of those things, but really that it is trying to make those connections that might have been lost in the day-to-day estrangements, so that's the way of thinking about that.
So as the addressee of your own life, it's surely not to communicate something to yourself that you already know. You want to learn something from.
I'm not sure about already know, but learning something through the process.
As the addressee of your own writing, you want to be changed by that writing in some way. You want to be awoken.
I understand, I understand. There's a beautiful concept. It speaks of the providential addressing. It's not a future one, it's somewhere.
Being changed, I think, is inevitable whether you intend it or not. The process changes you, and any process and experience of interaction offers you something.
I find real estate to be very interesting. No, I mean, what is real estate? If you buy it, you take out a loan, right? You try to manage time, and you use payments. I get it.
I mean, my dad is in the bank, he's a real estate agent.
What doesn't miss the line? I want a real estate means, right? I'm very curious.
I think that's when you put your money into the market.
Can I ask a personal question? More about, not necessarily technical what you're addressing, but what does a person get out of poetry? We talk about becoming what do a person get out of writing poetry? So like you talk about that act of reading or awakening. Is that your process to continually keep yourself awake? Or is it something else?
That would be nice. That would be enough. I'm not sure there is a conscious, determined aim. Today I would write poetry in order to become so and so. It doesn't work this way. But, probably the word we didn't mention here is the word intensity. Because we are all intensity victims. So we want to intensify language again, to intensify those poor words. We use all those words we are trying to think for. So that's probably a stake in the poetic process. Probably we want to. But that's dangerous. So most of the time we do not want to write poems. But in the process of writing, we feel more alive than ever, and then we are sad not to be as alive as we dream to be, and so we dream of the special state in which poems may arise again, and so on. So it's a sort of vicious circle, because actually prose, we constantly deal with prose. In poetry, there's nothing but prose, actually. Our prose is, so we deal with it in this way, and sometimes it works, or seems to work, or we are inclined to work this way, harshly, persistently, and most of the time it's not the case, because I will quote Hegel one more. The prose of the world is our prose, right? Our world is prosaic. We are no longer naive people, and our world is not poetic. So every poem is, of course, resisting the current state of the world. How to resist this general predicament? That's an issue. How to resist it? Knowing that we are part of this process, we are in the middle of it, we cannot escape it. So how shall we deal with this killing and life prose, which is ours? That's to me, that's also the state of every poem, but it's very hard actually. We are, yes, that's the estrangement process we spoke of. We are likely to disappear, to be withdrawn from the world we live in. We are likely to be killed by this process, actually. Because we are living in this prose of the world. That's where we live. We are living. So writing poetry is actually something inhuman, or something that is likely to withdraw our own being from the world we live in. It's dangerous. Most of the time we do not want to die. You are right.
To me, I'm glad when I seem to be able to write a poem without being in danger to that extent. So most of the time I want to retire.
What brings you back?
All habits.
I'm going to play Poésies of management and ask, are there any last thoughts? Any interested? Stella throwing me out the answers.
We can give you one as well.
Are there any?
The addressation.
I don't know exactly how to make the question, but it's, I'm interested in the aspect of translation. Because on aspect of translation, because you write a poem. I'm interested in translation because you write your poems in French. Okay. So you write your poems in French, and you write your poems in French.
Right.
So I was just wondering, for you, what is the relationship between the original text and the translation? And because in poems, it's so important the meaning of the words, but also the sound. So and it's so much related to the emotions. So how do you feel reading the translation of the text of the poems and listening to someone else, this is Jeremy, reading the translation of the poems?
cannot answer this question, because it happens, of course. A translation may happen not to be convincing to my ear. I think it's not accurately, it's not true to what I think I have done sometimes, but most of the time I said, who am I to be sure of what it is? In the beginning, when the first translations came out, I was very tough. I refused translations. Even once a book was about to come out, I stopped the process because I thought the translation and the translator was crazy. But now I'm not sure if it's crazy or not, so I let the translations go their way. But maybe it means that I'm not sure there is no such thing as a true translation, and it has to be something else. Adapt things and to be something else. That's probably what I think now. But I liked, for instance, Nicolas Marais did a beautiful job. I liked especially the rhythmical, sensitive quality in Aidan's translation, for instance. It was funny because to begin with, I tried to translate my poem in English, and I sent a very awkward, non-idiomatic translation to Aidan, who sent back a wonderfully fashioned, idiomatic one, and said, well, I'm sure I'm French.
Did it matter to you because you have a good grasp of English, and did it matter to you because you know English and understand that the translation is not conveying your intentions?
You cannot convey the supposed intentions. You know, there is a wonderful prose poem by Baudelaire called Tierce. How is it in English? Tierce. And he said that you cannot decide who's first between intention and expression. And he says in a beautiful way. So I think the same. I don't know anything about the intention. So, of course, I can say things about what the process is conveying, but the intentions are separate. So, as translations, since translation is a process, it conveys things, it has to convey its way.
Should the translator be a critic or an artist?
Yes, both. And sometimes I feel betrayed. Or obviously sometimes things I may say that things were not understood. Because there is prose in poetry, so there are things that are said. So sometimes we see misunderstandings.
Maybe the weird thing about translators is that they bring this problem of method, this problem of what it might say to definition, and you have, as an artist, a false hope, or something built into that translation that will reveal something that you don't want to
reveal. You're right, they should know the language. That's true. But the language is not easy to know, right? But they should know a lot of language before translation. Or they should learn the language in the process of translating. Some great translators learned English in France, for example. Pierre Lévis. Pierre Lévis a commencé à traduire pour comprendre les textes utilisés. Grand Pierre Lévis. Il le disait lui-même. Il says.
Well, so it's always very difficult for close to conversations, and I don't think this is a close one. I think by now we're clearly getting out to bring someone, and all of you are not just completely, utterly welcome to join us and to continue this conversation, but because Mark and Lishan are running out of film, and I'm very vague, and I don't speak enough film, being film, right? My version is speaking.
Keep it private anyway.
I think I do this private. But mostly I'd like to thank all of you for coming and being with us and attending to the works of my dear friends, Philippe, Adam, and Ching. I've done many a workshop with John, and we're doing one next week as well. And we've always ended up all calls for our workshops, and I think it holds here as well. It's ultimately, regardless of whatever the funding thing says, it's about them. It's about friends coming together to talk with each other, to think with each other, and I think hopefully this evening will come back. Thank you.